On Daf Sadik Amid Beis, and we're going to begin today with Kedarkenu with a chart. Here's the chart. Here's three shittas that we had: Reb Meir, the Rabbanan, and Reb Shimon. Reb Meir said on a gag you can carry from one gag to another gag. It's all one big gag, and the Rabbanan said, well, it's different Mishuyos, and Reb Shimon said it's all different. So now, simply put, like Reb Meir, a gag can go to one gag can go to another gag. But you can't go from a gag to a chutzner. That's why I put different symbols over here to show these don't go together. They don't match up. So a gag can go to a gag and that's it. A chutzner can go to a chutzner, that's it. And a karfif can go to a karfif. We saw a gezerah. Remember, Meir said if it gets tall, if the building gets tall, that's 10 tefachim. The roof gets 10 tefachim, not building the roof. If it's 10 tefachim high, he's goes to that until you make him to go ahead and rest upon a talim or shusarabim, on the hill in shusarabim. So therefore, tuadin gag. This is the reason for gag l'chatzah. So gag l'chatzah, the reason why you can't go from carry from one to the other is the gezerah of Yitzchak of Dimi that you may come to go ahead. If I let you go over here from here to here, you may come to go ahead and go to a tal in shusarabim. What about a chatzah to a karfif? Since they have the different rishuyos, they have different names. Right, even if it's small in a base society, he holds you can't carry. The two separate rishuyos. Rabbanim, they don't make the gezerah. They hold that what? They hold that a gag could go to a chutzner. That's why I put two checks over there. A gag could go to a chutzner. They don't make the gezerah, and therefore you could go from one to the other. However, karfif you can't. If Shimon says no, all of them 1, 2, 3, they're all good. You can go from a gag to a chutzner to a karfif, provided that what that it was on a keli that was out before Shabbos came. It was a keli that wasn't out before Shabbos came. You can't. So that's the framework of the different shittas that we're going to see. So let's see. Let's begin. We're beginning on again Sadik on the days. 3 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav Yehuda kishetim saloimad. They read Meir gagen u'shus la'atzmon. That means the guy could go to a gag. Chatzerish u'shus la'atzmon. A chutz can go to a chutzer. And karfifos rishus la'atzmon. And a karfif can go to a rishus la'atzmon, and a karfif can go to a karfif. Okay. However, the divrei chachamim gagim v'chatzeros rishus achas. A gag can go to a chatzer, and karfifa is rishus achas, and a karfifa separately. So that was the second chart, right? They put 2 checks on the second line, and then 1 X. And the divrei Reb Shimon kul rishus achas. The words according to Reb Shimon, they're all one. That's why all the boxes were checked off. They're all the same. They're all one and the same. Guys, you got it good? You got it good? Now, Tanya Kavasei to Rav. This is Rav Yehuda. Tanya Kavasei to Rav, that what? What did Rav hold? Rav held that Gagin that are equal, according to the Rabbanon, you can only carry 4. All right, that was the Tanya Kavasei the Rav. Okay, it's a very long blot. It's very funny. The Rashi for this is found all the way when the lines get wide. 1, 2, 3, about 5, 6. When it gets wide, 6 lines down. Tiny Kavasi the Rav Dam El the Gagan Hishrin the Rabbanon. By Gagan that are equal, the Rabbanon hold the Aim Betalton by Ella Bedalid the Asri Hadadi. Guys, remember Vlayamina good Asik with Mechitza Shein Kares. A reminder. Let me see if I can pull up that the chart. Let me see if I can pull up this is my always problem is getting that I can get rid of the chart. Then I have to pull up the no. Okay. Here's the sheeters of the Rabbanan. Yes. Let's get this open here. Okay. You remember The Chachamim hold when the roofs are open to each other, guys, right? They ask on each other. Since you didn't make an Eruv, right? You didn't make an Eruv from this roof to this roof. It's not Nicker. So therefore, you're limited to your 4 amas. We don't say good asik over here, and therefore it's open. So therefore, we're going to hold this is open territory, and therefore they're going to ask on each other, right? And we said it has a din of a Carmelist, right? Shalom knows this, right? Because once you said 4 amas, it's a din of a Carmelist, right? That's what we said yesterday. So now we want to bring a raya to Rav. Shmuel held, fellas, that we say good asik, and then you can carry throughout the roof. According to Rav, the fact that they're opening to each other limits you to 4 tefachim. According to Shmuel, you get the whole roof. Tani Kabasi to Rav, in other words, the Gemara now is going back to 2 days ago, right? That's why the pictures were so delayed. So Tani Kabasi to Rav, and Tani Kabasi the Rabbi Yehuda. We have a raya to Rav and a raya to Rabbi Yehuda, right? Rabbi Yehuda, who just said that, they all hold a different rishuyas. Tani Kabasi the Rav, Kol Gagas the ear, Rishus Achas Haim. All Gagas of the city, the one Rishus, but also Lahalois Lahoiri Mina Gagan Lachatzer, Umina Achatzer Lagagan. It's also they bring food up from the Gag to the Chatzer to the Gag, into separate rishuyas. The Kalim Sheshifte Bechatzer and Kalim that you leave in a Chatzer, Mutal Talplon, Bechatzer, right? You're able to go ahead and put in the Chatzer in the Chatzer. Begagin, Mutal Talta Begagin. Ubavad Shlo Yehei Gimel Gag Avoy Yud Oinamach Yud. Divrei Meir. That was Rameya Shita. Guys. This was Rameya Shita. This was the check, the X, and the question mark, right? Right. That was the 3 different ones. That's Rameya Shita. You can go from a Gag to a Gag. Can't go to a Chatzah. Chatzah to Chatzah. Can't go to a Gag. Chatzah to Karf. Can't go. Okay, right. So that was the check, the X, and the X, and the question mark. The Chachamim say, Kolecha v'yecha v'shus la'atzmai. Good. Each one is rishus by itself. They metalton boy ela bedalid. Each one of the gagos, he disagrees with Rameya. Rameya holds by gagin, fellas, you can go ahead and go back and forth. He says you can't. And not only that, you can only carry what? Only 4. That's a raya to Rav Shita. That the open area, the 2 gagos that are open to each other, it's one carmelist to another carmelist, and therefore they would answer on each other. You can only go ahead and carry 4 ams. Tanya Kavasi to Rabbi Yehuda. We're going to bring a raya to Rabbi Yehuda, who said, according to Rav Shimon, again, what did he said according to Rav Shimon that they're all one rishus, right? The 3 lines from the top. Rav Shimon kulam rishus achasein. They're all one rishus. All one rishus. They're all considered one rishus. I think we have a picture that is for the ages. Once and all, you get this. Here you go. Rav Shimon, guys. You can go from a Gag to a Chatzah to a Karfif, all one thing, right? All one thing. Yeah? Got it? That's what Yehuda's din of Shimon. That's Yehuda's din in Rav Shimon. You go throughout the whole thing, you can go for it, right? That's what he's saying. Good. Now, Rav, says Rav, Kishayinu loimdim Torah etzel Rav Shimon. When we're learning Torah about Rav Shimon, Tekoa was a city in the Chelik of Asha. That was Asha Shmein Alachme. It was known for its wonderful olives. Hayinu Ma'alim Shemen. We bring Shemen, which is appropriate because there was a lot of olives there. The Aluntis, and Aluntis is towel. Migag l'gag, umigag l'chatzer, umichatzer l'chatzer, umichatzer l'karfiv, umikarfiv l'karfiv. Acher, ukarfiv acher. Until we finally got to the well. Shayinu Reichsima that we had to wash from. So that's the picture we saw, and that's the raya to Rabbi Yehuda. And Rav Shimon, you can go from all one to the other. Rabbi Yehuda said, Yehuda Maisa b'shas sakana. There was a Maisa in the time of sakana. Vayinu Mailan Sefer Torah mechatz l'gag, mechatz l'chatz l'karfif l'kreispa. So Amaloi Ain't Shas Sakana Raya. The first first part could be a Raya, but Shas Sakana is not a Raya. Shas Sakana, there might be a different heter, Shas Sakana. So therefore, it's not a Raya. That's the din. Now, in Rav Shimon's din, guys, Rav Shimon said the kalim should shifta b'seicha, but kalim that were not shifta b'seicha, you can't. So Rav Shimon's moida, you can't take something from your house and start going from chutz to chutz, gag, karf, you can't do that. Okay, so now, how do you avoid that? How do you avoid that? If you didn't make an Eruv. Since you didn't make an Eruv, you can be assured you're never going to have anything in the chutzah that was in the house because you're not allowed to carry it out. In other words, Rav Shimon is saying a tremendous kula. You can carry anything in your chutzah that was in your chutzah before Shabbos, you can carry it throughout the city using the houses, right? Again, we saw this in the Pikadros and the Mila that they brought the Mila knife through the same vehicle, to the houses, to the roofs, and so on and so forth, to the chutzah, to the karfet. So now, what? This is only kalim that were out there beforehand. If the kalim were not, you can't. So Rav is going to suggest that if Shimon said his din, and this is going to be the rest of the daf, so get it clearly. Rav is going to say that if Shimon only said his din when they didn't make an Eruv. Between the Chatzeros, they did not make an Eruv. So you're guaranteed to ensure that there will be no kalim coming out from the house into the Chatzah, because there's no Eruv. But if they did make an Eruv, then with Geyser, that you may come to go ahead, if you can let you carry stuff in the Chatzah, you may come to carry stuff that was in the house. And it could be, since you made an Eruv Chatzeros, you can bring from the house into the Chatzah. So who's going to know the distinction between what? Between the things found in the Chatzah. One could have been there before Shabbos and it's Muttah. One could have been in the house when Shabbos came and it's Asa. So to avoid that, the Rav says Shimon's din was only stated when they didn't make an Eruv. That would guarantee that the only thing found in Chatzar is something that was there before Shabbos. It's a beautiful smart. Says the Gemara. Amar Shimon Gag is all the same. Amar Rav, Halach Reb Shimon. The halach is like Reb Shimon, and here's the addendum. For who shaloi irvu? That's provided that they didn't make an eruv chatzeros. Aval irvu, if they made an eruv chatzeros loy, then we'll say no. Then you can't go ahead and carry from one rooftop to another rooftop, or from one chatzah to a gang and vice versa. Because Rinon dilma asil afuke mane the bottom l'chatzah. It may come to go ahead and take out kalim that in the house you may come to take to the chatzah and you carry them. Ushmul Amar says Shmuel ben Eruvin ben Shlo Yervu. Doesn't make a difference. Bigger kula. Even if you made an Eruv and the possibility exists for you having kalim in there, nonetheless, Rav Shimon said his din. And so said Rabbi Yochanan. That even if you made an Eruv, you still let Rav Shimon will be able to carry from your chatzah to your karfif and vice versa. Says the Gemara, Mi lochashach ben irvu ben shlo yervu. Who whispered ben irvu ben shlo yervu? Rashi's not goyris this. Rashi's not goyris this lochashach. Right? It's not mi lochash. Who? I don't know. Mascular. It doesn't seem to. I don't see enough to mean locha. It just seems to be the statement. Mascular of Chista, the Shmuel. Now, Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, even if you made an Eruv, you could. Shimon allows you to carry across the universe, right? Even if you did make an Eruv. Says the Gemara, Maskiv la Rav Chista l'Shmuel Rabbi Yochanan Yomru Shnei Kelim b'Chatzer. You have two Kelim b'Chatzer. Achazeh Chatzer achas zeh muta v'zeh asa. Right? Comes out, guys, is modna, right? You can have in your Chatzer, you can have the same item. One you would be able to carry because it was out before Shabbos. And one you won't be able to carry. Why? Because it was in the house before Shabbos. Bishleim like Rav doesn't exist because you're speaking where there was no Eruv. So you're guaranteed. But like the heter of Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan, how could that be? And for the Gemara of Shmuel, Tamed loy gaza. So if Shimon, according to his reasoning, does not make a gezerah. We learned in the Mishnah. Amrav Shimon, lama hadav doimer. If you remember, this guy's three chatzeros, A, B, and C, right? They make an Eruv together. So B can go to A and B can go to C, A can go to B and C can go to B, but A to C can't go to each other, right? Good. Now, Shlosh Chatzeres HaPsuchas Zuluzu, UPsuchas L'Shus HaRabim, you have three Chatzeres, they're all open to each other, and open to Rishus Rabim. The Ivu Shtei Chitzonius, A and B, A and C, Im Ha'amsoyas, they make a with B. He Muteres Imahem, so B is mutter to A and C. They Muteres Ima, and A and C are mutter with B. Ubezach Chitzonius Zum Zu, right? And A and C are not mutter with each other. V'loi Gozer Dilma Asil Afuki Mani the Haychatza. So you see, if we're going to let B do business with C and let B do business with A, maybe they may come to go ahead and take from C to A through B. Maybe that's going to happen. Eli, you see, you're not worried about that. So who are din, like Reb Shmuel and Reb Yochanan, who say even if you did make an Erev, we're not worried you're going to take the item that was in the house to another chutzner, to another karfif, or to another god which you would not be allowed to. Hanami here as well, but our case, like Azrinan, the Masil Afuki Mani the bottom Luchatza. So in other words, Rav Shimon is not goizer there, and just like he's not goizer by the Chatzerois, he's not goizer by what Karfois, Chatzerois, and Gagen, and we're not worried. Masil Rav Sheshis on Rav. Again, Rav says what? Rav says Dafke they didn't make an Erev. Rabbi Yochanan and Shmuel say they did make an Erev. Masil Rav Sheshis, Rav Shimon Omer, Echad Gagois. Echad Chatzerois, V'echad Kafifois, V'shus Achas Hein, L'kelim Shifna B'Seicha, L'Lo Kelim Shifna B'Seicha Bayis. Iyan B'Shleimit speaking the Irvu, Hainu the Mishkachas Lamani the Botan B'Chotzer. El Iyan B'Shlei Irvu, Hechi Mishkach Lamani the Botan B'Chotzer. Guys, what's the statement? Listen to the statement in English. Rabbi Shimon permits, right? Kalim to be used on the roof, be carried. Which kalim? The kalim that are in the chutzah before, but the kalim that came out, you're not permitted. How did the kalim come out, guys, if you didn't make an erev? In other words, he's saying there's two types of kalim. There's two types. One that was there before and one that was there after. The one that was there before you could carry on the rooftops, and the other one you can't. But if there's no Erev, if there's no Erev, how did you have those ones that were what in the house? Ella, you see, you made an Erev. That's the kash on Rav. Again, the lashon is this is the lashon of our Mishnah, right? Rishus achas hein, to which lekalim sheshifna b'soicha, v'lo lekalim sheshifna b'dach habayis, but not the kalim that were in the house. Mashma, the kalim that were in the house eventually made their way out to the chutzner. Guys, how'd they get to the chutzner? If there's no Erev, how can they be in the chutzner? If you made an Erev, that's how you find kalim in the chutzner that were in the house. So whom here of Sheshes asked it, whom he answered it. The kumsa v'sudra, a hat and a scarf. You didn't make an Erev, guys. You didn't. Are you allowed to wear a hat and a scarf out? It's a malbush, right? Good. So you would be able to carry the kalim that were there beforehand, but hats and scarves that came out on Shabbos, you would not be able to. You're allowed to wear clothing. Anything you wear, even without an Erev, you can wear it. So I just gave you a Heicha Timsa. I gave you a case that without an Erev, you still have kalim that were in the house, hats and scarves. So very geschmack. So in other words, Rav held serve. It's speaking without an Erev. You want to know how I can have kalim that were in the house and how they made their way into the chutzner? They wore their way into the chutzner. The guy put it on his head, and it's no problem.
That why we had the Gemara one time where we said there was the case was that somebody puts their hat and scarf up on the roof.
Yeah, right. We were speaking about where it's Zrika, whereas we had the sugya which was stronger, the Zrika or Shilshol. And we wanted to say that you see from here that the guy in the rooftop was Bnei Aliyah and Bnei Rishus Harabim. So the one who has the ladder that was kavua, the Gemara said, why do you need a ladder kavua? The guy who goes ahead and is on the Aliyah, he uses it much easier than the guy in Rishus Harabim has to throw it. So he answered, the guy's not throwing it. It's speaking about something that's not heavy, scarf and a hat, and he put it on the roof. That's where we had it. Okay. Says the Gemara Vayta. Tashma. Another question on Rav. Again, Rav says no Erev. That's when Reb Shimon says it's din. Yes, Erev, then Reb Shimon does not say it's din. Okay, this is we had this mission before. Do you remember the case of the Merpeset Pei Gimel? Okay, let me do it. Let me do it. So here, you have Bnei Aliyah and the Merpeset. We're not speaking about the Aliyah. Aliyah, we said, is considered derech shilshol, and this guy's got to throw. We're speaking about Merpeset, that it's smart. It's easy to use. So here's the case. You have the people in the chutzah below and the Merpeset above. So now, Tashma. Anshe chutzah v'anshe Merpeset. You have people in the chutzah and people in the Merpeset. Sheshachu v'lo irvu. That they forgot and they didn't make an Eruv. Kol shegavoy yud tfachim Merpeset. Anything that's higher than 10 tfachim goes to Merpeset. So guys, if this is higher than 10, it goes to Merpeset because that's ease of use. It's in the jurisdiction. V'yulu shel rabim. Pachas mikan l'chatzar. Less than 10, we said af l'chatzar. We didn't mean even to the chatzar. We said af l'chatzar. That's what we said that time. Now, b'med devar mamurim. When do we say that we make this chiluk reshuyas between the chatzar and the merpeset? That they're not permitted on each other. Shahayu elu shel rabim ve'elu shel rabim. There were a bunch of people living here in the merpeset. There was a bunch of people living in the chatzar. They made individual Eruvin, fellas, but they didn't make an Eruv together. Again, I think it's important to point out, I've done it many times throughout the Masechta. There's two types of Eruv Chatzeres. There's one where you make within your own jurisdiction, your own houses and your own personal Chatzar, and then you're making next door to the other Chatzar. Remember we had the case of one Chatzar within the other Chatzar. If they make an Eruv, then it's Mutter. If they don't make an Eruv, that we say that Regel Oyseres B'Mkomo, Asher Shaloi B'Mkomo, right? So in other words, we're discussing over here the case where they made an Eruv, the Aliyah made the Eruv, and the Chatzah made an Eruv, but they didn't make an Eruv together. So the Eruvu Elul Atzmon, the Chatzah made it by themselves, the Elul Atzmon, and the Merpesa made it by themselves. Oishal Yechidim, or they were individually owned, Shein Srichim Orev, that they don't have to make an Eruv separately. In other words, they don't have to make an Eruv. If there's only one guy in the Merpesa, he doesn't have to make an Eruv. And there's one guy in the Chatzah, he doesn't make an Eruv separately. Let's say it was of a Rabbin, and they didn't make an Eruv. In other words, so therefore it's in Merpesed, they didn't make an Eruv. They'll all be considered what? They'll all be considered one Rishus. Let's see Rashi on this point. Go down, guys. Go down. It's parallel to the Gemara, about 8 lines not up from the Gemara. They didn't make an Eruv by themselves. Now, since they didn't make an Eruv themselves within their own Chatzar, you're not going to have the manim of the Chatzar there. Right? Nor will you find the manim of the Li and the Merpeset. If they didn't make it, that first Eruv Chatzeros, in other words, they didn't make an Eruv between themselves. They individually didn't make an Eruv. Individually, meaning, like the Shita of Rav Shimon, if they individually did not make an Eruv, of course, then you have Gag, Chatzar, it's all one thing, right? It's the Kalim that were there beforehand. So that Kulam Shus Achasein, the Kalim Sheshiftim B'Seicha, Rashi says. The Kalim that were out, then it's all one Rishus. This is Shitas of Shimon. Man Shamalei Haisvara of Shimon. The Kama Ervulai. So the guys, so look at now. Look at the. We want to be a Raya to Rav now. We're going to be a Raya to Rav. Again, just to reiterate, Machlokes Rav and Shimon and Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan. According to Rav, Rav Shimon said is din only when they don't make an Eruv. That guarantees there won't be any objects from the house in the chutzner. And Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan, they say they din when, even if you did make an Eruv. Good. So now we're going to make a Raya to Rav from this price. So let's see the Raya. So now, let's go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down. They didn't make an Eruv by themselves. They didn't make an Eruv. There was a Rabbim in the Chatzar. They didn't make an Eruv. There was a Rabbim in the Merpeset. They didn't make an Eruv. Why? Time of Yervu, because now you're guaranteed that what you won't have anything from the Merpeset in the Aliyah. You won't have anything from the house in the chutzner. Ha'irvu, but if they did make an eruv loy, that's Rav's raya to Rav. That's a raya to Rav. And for the Gemara, you have no raya. Harmoni, who is the Tana of this brisa? It's Rabbanan. The Tana of this brisa is the Rabbanan. Guys, remember the chart, the first chart? 2 checks. Gag, the second line. Rabbanan, Gag v'chotzer, right? The Rabbanan hold Gag and Chotzer are the same. We're saying she want to bring a raya to Rav Shimon, you have no raya. Ken Zayin, it's according to the Chachamim, right? So now, money, who's the Tana that Gag and Chotzer? It's the Rabbanan. And we'll look at it, and Yomi makes a very, very, very nice diak, right? The Yomi makes a nice diak. They can have a little tiny karf v'kumavoy shmami no. It only say gag v'chutzer, guys. Why? Why did they only say gag v'chutzer? Because only a gag and a chutzer like the Rabbanan are one rishus. The karfif will be a separate rishus. Why don't you speak about a karfif of a mavoy? Because that would be, you would not be able to carry it there. So you want to bring a raya to Rav Shimon. By Erev, forget Rav Shimon. Chachamim say it's that price is going to Chachamim. How do you know that it's the Shitas Chachamim? Because it only discussed a gag and a chutzer, did not discuss the karfif. So that's how you know it's Shitas Chachamim. Shma mino gevaya. Okay, Tashma. Chamesh chatzeres pesucha zuluzu. Okay, let's see it. A little picture here. You have 5 chatzeres. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all open to each other, and they're all open to a mavli. Good. 5 chatzeros, and they all open to a mavli. Tashma. Chamesh chatzeres ha pesucha zuluzu. Pesuchas no mavli. The shachu kulam, and they all forgot the loy irvu, and they didn't make an erev. Asa lahachnas lahaitzi. It's also to go ahead and take in and out a chatzah lemavli, right? You can't go out from the chatzar to the mavli, like the shitas chachamim, like a chatzar to a karfif. Umin amavli lechatzar, and from here to here you can't go. However, the kelim sheshifta b'chatzar, but kelim that you left outside, mutal letalta b'chatzar, you can carry in the chatzar over mavli yasser, right? So now you'll be able to carry from here to here, but you won't be able to carry from here to here. Rav Shimon says no. Even if the kalim that you left, you forgot to make an erev, guys. You left kalim out over here. Rav Shimon says gagois, chatzerois, karfois, they're all one thing. Rav Shimon Mata, Rav Shimon Omer, calls Machain Shal Rabim, as long as it's a few people. Shachu v'lei ervu, gag v'chatzer v'chsad and pesach karfif mavay kulam shazachasim. They're all one rishus. So that's provided you didn't make an erev, guys. What happens if you did make an erev? It'll be asa. That's the right Rav. Time with yervu. The reason why you can carry from the chatzah to the mavli and vice versa is because you didn't make an erev. Ha yervu loy. But if you didn't make an erev, not. That's the right Rav. And it's a kasha on Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan. Says the Gemara, "My loy yervu chatzeros b'hadi adadi." Okay, guys, look at the picture. When it says an erev, it means they didn't make an erev. This erev chatzeros. Each one of themselves did make a. In other words, the houses in this chutzah made an erev. The houses in this chutzah made an erev. When it says you make an erev, it means from this chutzah to this chutzah you make an erev. But each one individually made an erev. Right? Maila says the Gemara, "V'haloi erevu katani." It says you didn't make an erev. Mashma you didn't make an erev at all. It says Maila erevu le'nishtafru. It means erev here means you didn't make a sheet of voice. That these people didn't put a barrel of wine in a chutzah to mishtatif the mavli. So from the house to the chutzah, they did make. So once they made, it's not going to be a kasha on anybody, right? And when it says they didn't make an erev chatzeros, it means from here and here. Everybody's saying, Shimon was just answering the chachamim. Lididi, according to me, leishna irvu, leishna lo irvu. I hold like Rabbi Yochanan's interpretation of Shmuel's to me, there's no difference whether you made an Erev or you didn't make an Erev. Elde ditchu, according to you, the Chachamim, Oidel Amias be moided to me, the Hechid Lo Ervu, where you didn't make an Erev, Shosachasi, that the Gag and the Mavoy and the Chatzar, they're all one thing. The only Rabbanan Lo, Shtein Rishuyas Hain. The Rabbanan say no, it's still considered what? Two separate Rishuyas. Okay, let's see Rashi on that last point. Omra Rabbanan Loi, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of Omra Rabbanan Loi, Loi begag v'chotzev achsadrim pesed modin lecha avol karfu v'mavui Loi. But in other words, by gag will be moided to you, by chotzev will be moided to you, by achsadrim will be moided to you, but by karfu we won't be moided to you. Again, that's the Rabbanan Shita. Again, guys, right? That's the Rabbanan Shita. Where is it? Let me stop this thing. That's the Rabbanan Shita. Well, in other words, anything that's a gag, a chotzer, I'll be moided to you, but I won't be moided by karfu. That I won't be moided to you. We'll pick it up here tomorrow. Thank you for listening.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.